Everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Post Plan. This week is all about NA. So, we have had a lot going on in NA between different tournaments, roster changes, and just the anticipation for Game Changers qualifiers starting this week. So, we're going to do a recap of what's been happening and then give some predictions for what we think will happen later on this week. This week, we have, well, Betty returning with us. You had quite a intro episode with us, Betty. But we also have Dazeddreams, the amazing VCT observer, joining us to give her takes on the scene. Welcome.
Hey, it's really cool to see you guys in the virtual flesh. It's always
Yeah,
been DMs. It's nice to put faces and voices to names, and I'm excited to be here and talk about Game Changers NA because that's I love the NA women's scene, and so I'm very excited. So thank you for having me.
yeah, no, Days, you've been a champion for just getting more inclusion and diversity in the production scene, the players as well. And so, of course, we want to hear your takes. Also, like doing some work with Radiant and just again, like a champion in the scene. So, thanks for coming on. We really love to have you on in the future as well.
Yay! Yeah, I would love to. I don't know how much my expertise will contribute, but I love just talking about the scene. I just love Valorant and I love, the game changer scene and in general. So I'm really excited. So thank you again.
Yeah, I mean, so all three of us are observers, and so we're used to being behind the scenes and on camera. So this is a little new for us. So we'll ease into it. So starting out, talk about Game Changers Academy. So the most recent Game Changers Academy happened this past weekend, and it was a hoot because, well, it was sad one because Polaris didn't compete. So we mentioned last week that Polaris did decide to. I think the terminology they used was hiatus rather than disband. Although with some of the news that came out today, it sounds more like a disband.
Mhm.
But yeah, they weren't able to compete, at least as that full roster. But nonetheless, they still had a full set of 16 teams compete. And I know that there were still more teams that wanted to compete as well. Yeah, so we have the list of teams. So teams that we've come to know so far: Dart Monkeys, Team Mystic Venus, Final Form, Light Up Sketchers. Oh, Light Up Sketchers. I feel like that team is just so new and yet has done so well. Like, do y'all have any experience with that team in particular?
I know that I think they got together for Eve's Ascension, and then so that was what two two weeks ago, and then I
Mm.
think this was their second time playing together again.
Like, they've been doing quite well for being such a new roster. And when I looked into kind of who made up the roster, there they weren't names that I am too familiar with. Like some of the names we've seen from like pulling from the Galorant's community and have been like a mainstay for a while, but uh I feel like I didn't recognize a few of those names. They've had like history with random rosters like Serenity Purple, Whiteout, that kind of thing. But I would love to talk to this team to figure out kind of how they got together.
Yeah, okay, I lied because I pulled up their VLR, and turns out they got together. Just show you all.
The Sakura Cup?
Yeah, so Sakura Cup, the February one, and
Mhm.
then from there, I think they played Eve's Ascension with VLR, and then so March GCA was their third time playing together, and they've only been
Mhm.
together for like a month. And
Yeah. So doing amazing for only competing for just this year, basically. Hmm. Well, I bring up that name in particular because they made it into the finals. So Light Up Sketchers versus Dart Monkeys. And Dart Monkeys definitely, I want to say, did they also get together for the Sakura Cup? I feel like I need to check that as well. I feel like
What?
they,
Some good
yeah,
research. Yeah,
yeah.
so they also play. Oh, GCA February.
Hmm.
And then
Okay, so for Academy in February, they made it into the semifinals and or sorry, into the grand finals
yes.
against Polaris. So they're two-time finalists,
Mm.
but this time, since again Polaris was not competing, they were able to finally make the finals. So yeah, two new rosters and still able to do quite well. I mean, the players in this roster I'm a little bit more familiar with, like let's see, like Grimoire, Autumn.
Mhm.
They've been around for a while, but I'm happy that the scene is continuing to grow and still pull kind of new, r- kind of new unknown
Mm.
players.
Yeah, and that's the whole point why we have Academy, like this kind of game changers amateur scene is in order to foster new talent so it's not just C9 white every time.
True, true.
Yes. I think it's important to realize too that you know, even though Polaris didn't compete as a complete team, I think some of like two players migrated over back to Men I Love Frogs. Like I think Zawasi did, and I know, I think Kitty and Clefairy
Yeah, and
also played on the team. So
Shaka.
there's some really good, it's not like there's really good competition. I think Aim Punch has been making their way up as well.
Hmm.
So this is a huge win for Dot Monkeys to kind of solidify themselves as, hey, we are an upcoming team. Take a look on us. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. Hopefully, um, so Dart Monkeys, Light Up Sketchers, Aim Punch, like you mentioned, those teams will continue getting their reps in as an unsigned team, and hopefully find some luck in getting getting some like recognition from an org. I know last time you spoke in chat, you were like very adamant on getting like Polaris signed. So I guess these teams are kind of next in line.
Hmm.
Okay, what is next? Let's see here.
We got some talk about rank requirements in game changer
Mm,
events. So
mm-hmm.
here we have a tweet from Astralis, and they're saying there be an immortal rank requirement events. This isn't a fun community event thing anymore, and girls have improved a lot since 2 years ago. Flat teams taking up spots in the BCT GCs are genuinely just stat boosters and slot takers at this. So,
I mean, I'll go first. I'll be blunt. I think this is a bad take. Um, I understand the frustration of not being able to sign up on time. I get that. And I get the whole point that this is not a fun community event, but I don't think Game Changers was ever marketed as a fun community event. It's always been marketed as a competitive event. And the thing about capping it or upping it to immortal is it really does gatekeep um, new players who may want that competitive experience. And I do think it's up to the players to sign up on time. Game changer events are often announced ahead of schedule. Um, and as a pro team, that's what, or as a aspiring team, I think that's something you have to plan ahead and make sure you have all your players lined up and especially if you've competed before, you know what the requirements are. So I think it's just a bad take.
Can you pull up the quote retweets?
I sure.
So yeah, I agree with you as well, Days. Of all the things to do a gatekeep. Wait, what?
The deer thing?
No, not that.
Oh,
If you go, okay, your window looks different than mine. Interesting. So I agree with you in the sense that no one's saying that Game Changers Academy and Game Changers isn't a competitive scene. Like it is competitive, but rank shouldn't be like
Yeah.
uh, you shouldn't have immortal be the rank, because if you see some of the quote retweets, like look at this one. So TSMX Athena is a diamond player apparently, and who else was it? Um, I think it was not in the quote retweets, but a comment. Let me see who said it. Mm, Artstar. Yeah, Artstar said like when she was signed, she was like borderline plat diamond 1.
Mhm.
And so those are just two examples, and I'm sure there's more of players who didn't hit immortal but are very valuable to a team. So I don't think that's the solution to not having spots. Um, so I think there should just be, and I know it's difficult, but ideally there would be like more tournaments available, more spots available. But I know there's difficulties with that. And then also, not to forget that there are still open tournaments that are available for these teams to compete in and to get experience as well. And I do know, like talking to some TOs, like they would love to have some of these teams compete and fill like their bracket. So I feel like there's other solutions that can be done first rather than less than like 2 years in, go ahead and like make such a high requirement.
yeah, and even just this tweet on the screen right now, they'll make an already small community to quote unquote to raise standards. Like, I think if there wasn't GCA with the lower rank requirement, like I don't think there would have been the opportunity for maybe Dart Monkeys, Light Up Sketchers to have the chance to better themselves and get where they are now.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's obviously I understand the frustration of not being able to sign up to a tournament. That stings. I just think, Game Changers Academy, from what I can tell, the mission statement is to really develop newer talent, um, who
Hmm.
haven't necessarily experienced the competitive field yet. And this is kind of the first shot of doing it in a safe community. I think a lot of people don't realize that not everyone has had any competitive experience in their life. Like I've played competitive sports, I play competitive like musical stuff, right? So having um that competitive setting is totally different than in a casual setting. And Game Changer is not only teaching um new players about how to play as a team, but also how do you talk to tournament admins? How do you build endurance for playing for 5+ hours a day? How to understand seeding. I think there's a lot of different aspects to that, or how does it feel to be streamed? I think it's just that should be open to all new players. I feel like, and it just happens that GCA is all just um, plat and up, which is great too. I think that's a good um, ranking system in my opinion. I hope that makes sense. I'm very nervous right now. I'm like shaking. So
Oh, you can't hear me? Okay,
It's
sorry.
okay.
You're doing great, Days. That's what I was saying.
And
Um,
I definitely, again, I understand this frustrations. I just want to,
mhm.
as someone who, again, I run a lot of low elo tournaments, right? I've worked on some like higher tier tournaments, and I think it's just all across the board, right? It's important to have tournaments, especially in the in the game changer scene, because a lot of these times, a lot of these newer players who want to become pro, but again, they don't know it yet. They just don't know what that environment is like at the moment, I guess.
Right. Yeah, like literally it's called academy. Like this is
Yeah.
supposed to be a learning environment.
Mhm.
And so until there is a consistent tournament that caters to the people trying to learn and
Mm.
get that first competitive experience, like to increase the rank or do something that would otherwise not allow these people to compete, like that can't happen. So either we create an academy 2.0 for like the next step
Yeah.
or something before we go ahead and like shut those players out.
Yeah, and the thing, like with academy, sure, maybe for some teams that get in, it starts as like a fun girls' night kind of activity.
Girls' night.
But then, oh,
That sounds
that's
like
what Estrella said.
it's a fun date
Um,
night.
but maybe it begins there, and then if you
Yeah.
get a few wins, then you're like, hey, we're kind of good. So then you put in more practice, and then you end up getting higher and higher in those tournaments. Go on to play other tournaments and do bigger things.
I think that's the story for a lot of pro Valorant players, right? Especially in the game changer scene.
Mhm.
Especially those who weren't uh previously super involved in the CS:GO scene, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Um so I think having, again, as a plat player, getting that competitive experience and realizing, hey, I actually want to dedicate my time going pro. I think that's what Game Changers Academy and Game Changers as a whole is supposed to foster, on the competitive player side.
Okay. Well, that being said, so we all seem to have like
Yeah.
on a similar plane regarding that. Um, so then the next step would be to compete in Game Changers Academy. So we can probably go ahead and start that discussion because we might be here a while trying to talk through all the different teams. So Game Changers Academy is starting this week.
I mean, Game
Game
Changers
changers.
Changers.
Thank you. Thank you. Game Changers qualifiers. That's the qualifier I was trying to use. Game Changers qualifier starting this week. The plan is to have 32 teams compete in a group stages, a Swiss format. And if you could pull up like the NSG page, that'd be awesome. Yeah. So 32 teams going to do a group stage for the first day, Swiss format. I know a lot of teams and players are like it it literally depends on who you talk to. Like some love the Swiss format because it just provides more opportunities for the players to like get in, but then also it just becomes like this slog to get through. So I don't know. It's hard to say. But then the top, what is it? Top 16 teams?
Yeah.
Is it? So the
Top.
top 16 from that move on to the playoffs?
Hmm.
Okay.
Uh,
Cool. I should like remember that I can't see. So I need to have it like really large. Okay.
and and
16 teams. Yeah, go ahead.
and just to notify the viewers, the top 16, that's next week, okay? April 6th through like April 9th. And this qualifier is March 31st through April 3rd. Someone
So
Yes.
March
can crucify
31st
me.
to
Someone can
April 3rd
crucify me.
for the
Yeah.
qualifiers,
Show
and
up.
then
Show up.
the top
Support the
16
team.
teams will compete in a double elimination bracket, best of threes. So I don't think they're going to play out, because with some qualifiers you play out to the end, but with this qualifier, as soon as you make the top eight will automatically move forward into the main event for the following week. Okay. Well, we do already have our 32 teams. If you could pull up that slide set so we can kind of walk through the teams, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
Here are the six is the 16.
32.
32. Okay.
32. All right. Well, we've already spoken a lot about some of these teams. So we have, I'm just going to go ahead and read them out, and then we can talk about some of the things that you notice about some of the teams, or whatever you want to say about a team. So Genji Black, uh, this is a team that has been competing quite a bit in the open tournaments over the last few months. I haven't really seen them in the last few weeks, so I don't really know what their condition is like. Like, I think the last time we saw them was the Sakura Cup. And how did they do?
I thought they competed in the Knights
Yeah.
Gauntlet. And that'll be I think they completed in one of the weeklies too. The Knights hosts weekly 1K tournaments for Valorant, and I think they played in that. I'm not quite sure. Oh, there we go.
We played in the Knights Monthly for March. They did lose. They also played in the Open Quals, the VCT.
Right. So Genji, Cloud9, Shopify, uh Misfits now, and what was the other team? The team that disbanded recently. What was it?
Polaris.
No, the other
No, not
one.
YFP.
No, that. Oh, well, that's actually something we have to talk about as well. But
Oops, spoilers.
it'll
We'll
come to my mind.
remember.
I'll remember later. But those teams got experience in the VCT circuit. Resilience, thank you, Annie.
And he's so smart.
Yes, I know, right? So resilience. So those are the teams that got experience in the VCT circuit. Did Genji? I don't see it on VLR. Did Genji not compete in Sakura Cup? Because I know we did have like some teams that we
Yes.
expected to show up that didn't. So it's kind of hard to know what their form is for this year. I mean, they've had experience in open tournaments, but relative to the other Game Changers teams, like, I have no idea what they look like.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just looking at Sakura. So this is Sakura 5. We have
Hmm.
TSM, Slay, Version X Final, 24 Haven, Euphoria, and Friends. Starwings, Aim Punch, Lair Solaire, Love Sketchers, dang I love Complexity, Roulette, Ari's Money, Randy Purple. So no Genji to be found.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, Sakura Cup were missing like a few faces that
Yeah.
we're used to seeing. So n- it's
Maybe they
interesting
were
to see.
busy.
Well, I mean, a lot of the players have said, like, just trying to juggle school or work or whatnot, it's a bit difficult. But um, I I feel like that changes my pick'em now. But I'll
Well,
keep it. I'll keep it.
Delta we cannot change. So
Okay.
they're locked in.
All right.
Speaking of them,
So
Genji.
okay, next on the list, Misfits Black. So they were previously 24 Haven, and again, one of the teams that we mentioned, like having pretty good experience in the open circuit and just like these third party games as well. So lots of high hopes for them and hoping that they get the signed buff as well.
I mean, did you guys see the promo video? Custom song?
The
Are
hype
you
on that
kidding?
alone,
And
that'll do the trick.
I definitely, those players are definitely determined to shake up kind of the top, get into the top 4 of the um game changer scene in NA. I think the top, I guess, with all the roster changes, man, it's definitely more harder to protect. But like,
Hmm.
uh, Shopify and C9, I think White, I think we all can agree that's kind of like the top of the pack. And I definitely think, Misfits Black really want to like make their name into that top slot as well with them. So I'm excited.
Yeah. They're also boot camping like
Mhm,
right now.
mhm.
So boot camp buff we've seen is real, and I don't know if they're going to boot camp for the main event, but definitely for the qualifiers, they're boot camping. So they'll have also the buff of them being together in the room. Okay. The Shopify Rebellion, the last series, they actually boot camped. So I don't know what if they're doing that
In
this time. I haven't
Toronto.
true. I
They
haven't
should come
seen any
back.
tweets of them like traveling, so I have no idea what they're doing. But again, a pretty solid group. They they took some rounds off of Exit, so that's saying a lot.
Weren't they
And
pretty
then also,
close?
It
yeah,
was
the
like
map was Haven.
7-13. Yeah, it was like 7-13, 6-13. So I mean, that's more
Decent.
most that's pretty decent. I mean, most teams don't do that well against Exit in general, right? So
Hmm. Yeah, I was just happy they didn't get like rolled over. If and they succeeded. But they did lose a member recently, so it not Han. They were a 6-person roster, so we've spoken before, or I don't know if us three have spoken before, but it's been mentioned like the difficulties of fielding a 6-person roster because
mm,
you kind of have to figure out who does what, and there's a lot more pieces to move. But I thought like when I spoke with them at a press conference, they sounded pretty convinced that the 6-person roster was the way to go, especially with some of the players being in school. But I don't know. It doesn't seem to work out, I guess. Are there any other 6-person rosters that I think that
not
was
that I
like
know
the last
of.
one? At least in NA. I know there's a
Yes.
few in other regions, but hmm. Okay. So they probably won't look too different without it not Han, but that is a variable that is coming into play. Okay. CLG Red. So CLG Red um also lost like one of their mainstay players. So it hasn't been announced, right? Like who would fill that spot?
It has
Think so.
not been announced to my knowledge. I think whoever is going to fill the spot is going to step into some big shoes that Benita filled. She, from my knowledge, IGL'd for the team, and she was a freaking fragger. That's really hard. But I think CLG Red, you know, will do well. I think. So it's going to be interesting to see, and we haven't seen them at all, from what I can tell. Too, I
Yeah,
think.
they did do one open VCT, I believe. But other than that, I haven't really seen them around.
Hmm.
And I, as far as I know, Shinobi's still the coach.
Hmm.
And yeah, I guess just trying to figure things out internally through scrims rather than competing. Well, another team that we haven't seen though, Dignitas. Like, have you seen them lately?
No, their last I checked on them, I think through the Wikipedia page. I think the last tournament was Galentine's, the Galentine Super League Arena. I think by the UNI
They were
reserve.
in that.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they
Annually.
took second against Shopify, I believe,
Yeah.
which they looked pretty. I mean, pretty decent. So I think they're going to do well. I mean, they have a lot of experience on their team, honestly, and you have Sholiana on there, who's just cracked out of her mind. But I feel like that's a lot of players, you know. I'm also just bronze one, so to me, when anyone can hit their shots and like use their utility well, I'm just like, woo!
Sounds good to me.
It sounds good to me. But no, Sholiana is really good as a player. Like, super great. Good addition
Mhm.
to the toss when she was announced, like last year. Sorry, I just went on a tangent. Okay.
Oh no, I mean this is
Continue.
podcasting. You've gotten the spirit of podcasting. You're supposed to go on tangents, so you're doing it well. Yeah, but basically what you said, like I haven't seen them much besides that tournament, and it was kind of like a low key tournament, for
Especially,
Valentine's Day. So,
Yeah,
and especially,
only the finals were.
yeah,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
and especially with this new meta coming up, I feel like even the data we
Oh,
had
that's
before,
right.
it's really hard for me to be like this team, because we really haven't seen anyone compete in the new meta besides the recent Game Changers Academy. I believe. Correct
Right.
me if I'm wrong, but that changes the whole, landscape, right?
We did see TSM compete in in the new meta, but it was like a very small tournament. Um, what was it? DreamHack. TSM competed in DreamHack, in the new meta. So that's about all that I know for the team's experience. And then, like you said, Game Changers Academy. I was just looking at their previous comps, and it was only for, let's see, Bind. They just have so few maps. I'm having trouble tracking. So they have Astra in some maps, but that's not to say much. So, but they did play Omen actually a lot
Mhm.
in the last VCT. It looks like. So, if they go back to Omen, who's on the Omen?
It was an Emulet?
No,
Emulate?
Emily plays the KO. That's like her
Oh,
mainstay
okay.
now.
I don't
It was
remember.
So Rain is the controller for the team.
Oh, that makes
So
sense.
Rain is like or was at least at the time an Omen main. So I'm sure she's happy to get back to Omen. So that could be a blessing in disguise that a player that she's used to is back in meta. But as you said before, like they don't. We have no idea what we're gonna see.
I just
Okay,
want to see.
Mhm.
true. Yep, that's fair. Team Unity X. Anyone heard of that team before?
Do we have the
No.
roster list, or is it just team?
Just team names.
Ah,
I mean, I'm sure I could
I
find something, but
So Team Unity X, I haven't heard much about. I've been trying to research all these teams for Gradient.gg, and I just haven't gotten to them yet. It's kind of hard to find everyone though, frankly.
ooh, I found
I see
something
a tweet
interesting. Yeah.
saying they're looking for a player, which is probably a problem. Yeah. So they're looking looking for a player at the moment. So I don't know what
But they're
they're.
trying out next week, which is
Oh, you
when the
pulled it. Yeah.
main event is. So who are they playing this week?
Good question.
And
Uh,
no,
I don't know. And
I
that
don't know.
that also begs the question, like, how late does anyone know how late you can make roster changes? Because we're talking a lot about changes in the roster, like players still being dropped or added and whatnot. And of course, things go on behind the scenes, but like, how late is too late?
I know there's emergency subs, and that's about it. I want to say like you know there must be a lot roster lock within like 24 hours. I would say, if not like, what I mean.
That
I
makes
have
I
no
think this
idea.
might be an emergency sub situation because Game Changer starts in like 3 days.
Yeah,
Oh, 2 days, right? It's 30, like the 31st. It's coming up
okay.
really fast,
starts on
like
Thursday.
Thursday, Thursday. So I assume it's an emergency sub. Um,
Yeah,
Again,
I
I
have no idea.
assume. So please do not quote me. Please do
Maybe
not
You're
quote
they'll
me.
allowed to
find.
speculate. It's part of the podcasting thing. You were saying?
Oh, after Immunity X, you have Purple.
So this org amuses me just because of I appreciate the commitment, I should say, because they continue to field a roster like for almost every event, but I feel like it's almost different for literally every single event. So I have no idea who is on this new roster or what to say about their performance.
This might be a side rant, but it would be nice if a lot of like if orgs can normalize having team rosters on their website. Some orgs do and some orgs don't, but it's really
Well, that's
hard.
if they even have a website. Some of these orgs are
Yeah,
so new and still being put together that
yeah.
there's no infrastructure to kind of do a website.
I think the only Serenity Purple person I know is Claudia. Claudia.
See, I was just looking at her Twitter and it says content creep.
She
Oh,
also
right.
competes though. She also competes
Okay.
if you look into your Twitter history. And I remember her playing and she's pretty good. So definitely
Betty.
a contender for top 16 for sure.
So pull up on VLR def not Serenity. So DEF not, and then it should come up.
Oh.
So
Oh.
maybe this is like the funny thing where they're like, this is definitely not
Hmm.
whatever org. So maybe it's them.
I Is it just me or do you not recognize these players?
Uh, I recognize. Never mind. Nope.
Okay. Okay, I didn't know if it was just me. Uh,
Yeah, but so like we were saying, the roster changes around quite a bit, which is nice in terms of commitment, but then it's difficult to analyze. So we'll just leave that be for now. Okay, who's next? Roulette. Anyone heard of roulette?
No.
I feel like this
Oh,
whole like half of this tournament that
yeah.
terms of
No,
who
that's
moves
that's
on.
rim shot. Yeah, nope. I have no idea.
Has anyone here heard of Cloud9 White?
Hmm.
Sounds familiar, but
Maybe.
I'm not quite sure.
Uh, well, they competed in VCT Open, both of them. They didn't do too hot, unfortunately. But other than that, we haven't really seen them compete in open tournaments.
Mm.
Wait, no, that's not true. We saw them in nights, maybe. Let me pull it up. As my internet decides to not cooperate. Yeah, that's what I thought. So just Boom TV, so the big Boom TV tournament, the Proving Grounds tournament, they competed in that, and then just the open qualifiers. So I also don't know what their condition is. Um, well, I mean, clearly it's gonna be a top condition, but like just how much, no idea because they've been doing things behind the scenes.
It'll be interesting how they like again. I think everyone is right now thinking, can Shopify Rebellion, how far is that gap if there is a gap anymore,
Mm-hmm.
between
Hmm.
them and C9 and White, if that makes sense. I think that's going to be the question of, I guess, the playoffs. I don't think they'll be on the same side of the bracket
Oh yeah, no.
for the group stage.
Well, I guess my question is, how are they going to? I guess I just wonder how they're going to adapt to the meta because I know that Cat, it's Cat, right? Yeah, Cat usually plays Astra, and she was like one of the I guess I can say founding players that played Astra because of the timing of like when she came out and the Game Changers scene. So like we were seeing the potential of Astra through her. So it's interesting that now that Astra's kind of out there, what they're going to adapt to. Like I I think the Boom TV tournament they adapted a little bit with so it looks like they were playing like Breach and Brim on one map and they also
Mm-hmm.
switched to Chamber. So they're still troubleshooting some things, but as we've said before, no idea what's going to happen with the meta change and what the comps will look like.
I think Kat is going to be fine. She's played a lot of Omen pre Astra, and I know she played Omen a lot. Um, just like watching her streams. So I think she would do great. I think it's just more of, again, just I think,
How far above the other
yeah,
teams? Mm-hmm.
yeah. I guess
Mm-hmm.
see, I'm more curious about, well, how I want to see how much other teams improved, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay. EQ Scarlet. Anything about that team
let me. I
or
am
not?
going to try Twitter it and see
I know
if
they were in Game Changers Academy, but other than that, I don't know much. So they went out in group stages in Game Changers Academy. So that's all I know about that team.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to
To stream
watch
them,
them.
yeah. So it'll be a mystery.
so this team consists of Gogu. It looks like
Do you know any of these players? Because I
Mimi.
don't.
I'm trying to look. I personally I don't think so. Maybe Zoe. Um, I'm not quite sure, but they may have changed the roster too. Who knows?
Mm.
Yeah, well, it's a new team and unknown players, so there's not too much to say about that team. But they did play in this academy, this most recent academy against Final Form, which I do know a lot more about. So Final Form, they lost, or Final Form won 13-3 in their group stage. So Final Form, it composes of people we've seen in the scene for a while. So like Chels, Sarah Star, for example, and um, they also have some former like competitive experience together on like No Shot and what was it, 20 plus 22. So I don't know if they're gonna be able to like make it out of qualifiers, but definitely one of the teams who are like right up there uh on trying to take maps off of the sign teams.
I definitely
Yes.
think they can because we have, the 16 spots going into the main event. So I definitely think they definitely qualify. I would probably put them in my top 16, um, based
Hmm.
off their
Oh,
players.
definitely.
Yeah. So it's gonna
Hmm.
be interesting for sure.
How about Divinity? Any notes on Divinity?
0.
Nope.
So
Okay. Well,
it,
there's
it's
still.
hard. It's hard because it's like if you don't see them in Game Changers Academy, and I don't know if they competed in Game Changers Academy.
Mhm. No.
And then people would change rosters even before Game Changers Academy and the main event.
Hmm. Aim Punch, I know did quite well. So of the Game Changers Academy games that I did watch, I did see the map of Aim Punch versus Final Form, and that was pretty interesting series to watch. So the the map kind of went like, or both maps, it was 2-0. The maps kind of went back and forth. The score lines I feel like don't indicate how close it was. So the score lines were 13-8 for both maps, but it was so back and forth the whole time. And it came down to like just some crazy plays from like Kaz, for example, or Hollywood. So they were able to just slightly pull above Final Four. Um, so I don't know. I think that team is a little difficult for me. Again, like you said, the top 16 most definitely, but in that tier of like under the sign teams, it's kind
Yeah.
of hard for me to place them.
Yep.
How
Nice.
about Team X? No takers for
No,
Team.
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Unsure.
Unsure.
Okay. Then it's Beckons, right? For the
Yes.
okay. I know Beckons was in Academy, and I've seen their name around like for a Sakura Cup as well. But in terms of in terms of that team's performance, I don't I've never really seen them like make it into semis or anything like that. Or but they have
I,
been around a while.
I think they're developing roster,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think right now they're just trying to get the reps in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think they will make it out of group stage necessarily,
Yeah, that's fair.
but I think getting this experience is such a huge thing for these teams, right? So if this was like their other division, which is just Beckins, Beckins. I was thinking of Webkins for some reason, and I just said put it B and yeah, uh, Beckins. They have another team that's like I think Iron to Gold or Silver Gold, and they placed well in
Mm-hmm.
that tournament. But I wish I knew more about their I guess higher division team.
Mm-hmm. How about Celestial? I feel like didn't Annie say that she knew something about Celestial? Oh, just like personal connections to
New
that
free
team.
agents.
Okay. Interesting. Well, other than that, I know nothing about them, but I'm glad to see that uh, colleagues of yours are able to compete in the next series. Man, I love flogs. So we already spoke about this, but so two players from the now gone Polaris roster are now playing on Man I Love Flogs. They didn't do too hot with Game Changers Academy, but that's to be expected, like, since it's basically a new roster again.
I mean, it's all players that we know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Katie, Clefairy, Zawesi, Ozo. We have Shakta,
Shaka? Mm-hmm. Yep.
and I want to say I don't know their fifth. Who is
Fifth.
their
Oh,
fifth?
so Clefairy. Hold up. I just have it up.
Okay, Dinos. I'm sorry. I go.
Yeah, Clefairy, Dinos. So, oh,
Cho.
Wait.
this
Hold up.
they are not
Wait.
updated on VLR.
Okay. Hold up. It's
Something like
Dip,
that.
Dinos, Mel J, Zoe, and Shaka. There we go.
Yes.
That's the most recent roster that competed. Don't know if that's the same roster that's going to compete at Game Changers, but I I, I did actually catch one of their maps, and yeah, you could tell that they're definitely not as rehearsed because again, it's a new roster essentially. Dip is a pretty good fragger though. So if Dip is able to pop off and then they're able to coordinate a little bit more this week, maybe they'll make it into the top 16.
They also have Cham, the coach, who Cham is very very, I guess, I think really has proven himself as a great person at of building teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Polar is just really great. I think not being signed is not a reflection of
The coaching at all.
yeah
Yeah.
the
No, it's
coaching.
just the conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, you confirmed it made sense. I'm sorry.
It's all good. Team Kittens. That is another team that did compete. They didn't make it out of group stages for Game Changers Academy, but uh, like you said with Beckon's just a team trying to get the reps in with these types of tournaments. What else? Dart Monkeys. So we already spoke about them as well. So Dart Monkeys being in the finals for the last two Game Changers Academy, and again, just trying to get those reps in. I do think they'll make it out of the group 16, but um, again, with kind of I would put them right under the signed teams, at least in my opinion.
For sure, I agree. I
Okay.
mean,
Oh yeah.
they won. They won Game Chasers Academy. I think that says a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they had to win against a lot of the teams that are competing right now in Game Changers event. If you know what I mean, like they
Mm-hmm.
beat out essentially Final Form, uh, Aim Punch,
Mm-hmm.
Mana Love Frogs and stuff. So I think that puts them there.
Yeah, and that'll probably boost their confidence going into game changers, knowing that they are
Exactly.
capable of that.
So they're definitely making out of groups for sure. I will put my money on that.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Another team that will definitely make it out of groups, TSMX. We already spoke about them, but that roster has been relatively stable compared to all the other teams we've spoken about. And then also getting their reps in outside tournaments. But I
And
mean, anything else?
yeah, I mean, Dough Donut. Holy, I
Uh,
they
Yeah.
we observed them for nights
Hmm.
because they played in the main circuit for out of groups, and Dough Donut went nuts. Got like a 4K out of nowhere on a jet
Oh
on
yeah, you showed that
Icebox,
clip.
showing she like flies up into on top of yellow, and then she just like kills everyone. I mean, it's fantastic. She's great. I mean, and then their team is just stacked with Kath and Athena and Emily and Leah Panda. You
Yeah,
know,
Panda. So good.
Hmm.
they're just a solid team, and I think for the Knights, you really I really saw their growth. They're playing a lot more coordinated too.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, they haven't done too well in the previous Game Changers events. So I think this time, especially with all the stuff we talked about with going on with the other teams, they have a shot at making like um maybe even the semis.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they were even in the finals for the last Sakura Cup, losing like
Oh
one
yeah,
to two against Complexity.
complexity. Mhm. Yeah. So Lair, that name's been around for a while, but they haven't like performed too well, in my understanding.
So their roster right now consists of Chobo Me, who very cracked. I don't know how long if y'all remember, but Chobo Me
Yeah, yeah.
substituted for CLG Red for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Chobo Me would get like signed to CLG Red, and then obviously that didn't happen. Also substituted for C9 White for one tournament, if I recall. Apparently on like Wikipedia. So you have Chobo Me, you have Hard Out, who also has shown to be a fragger, and then you
Mm-hmm.
have Petro, Ptero.
Uh, Pterodactyl is her Twitter at Taro.
Your guess is as good as mine. But yeah, I mean
So-
they've been competing
and then you
in
have Fawn and Leah.
tournaments.
Sorry, I was just like, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm really bad at names. There's a
All
reason why I'm an
good.
observer and not a caster. There's a big
All
reason.
all good. We will definitely try to figure out what some of their names are as we're learning more about the teams. Exet though, I that's another
X.
team that we don't quite know. I know there's a rumor going on that they've filled two players from EMEA, but
Yes.
has that been confirmed?
We don't know yet. We don't know
Ooh.
yet. But I have faith. So recently, and this is like off the books, right? So I recently did a interview with Ellie from
Wait,
Exit
wait. You
Female.
can't say off the books on live Twitch. That's not how this
But
works.
she seemed really excited with this new roster. So
Okay.
based on that affected my pickums for top 8, okay? Which we will get later on, but she seemed really excited. And the current roster that stayed on was, Starry Bun and Artstar and obviously Ellie, and they've been super solid players. Um Fragging and just playing the wars well, right? So yeah. Again, I didn't leak anything. I'm just saying she sounded very excited. So I'm expecting it's all gonna be good, okay?
Okay. We'll
I
we'll
put
we'll take it on
Exit.
your word.
I put them in my top 8 because I bought a hoodie from Exit and I wanted to support them. So
That's a fair
that's my
argument.
reason.
I like it. Clothes do, affect our emotion towards the team. So, I mean, I'm wearing
I'm
a Cloud9 jacket, so it's all good.
I didn't buy a Man I Love Frogs hoodie still or t-shirt, man. I know.
Those are like limited edition at this point.
I know,
Okay.
right?
Oh, nice.
Light Up Sketchers. So we already spoke a little bit about them, but so a roster relatively new and players kind of in random rosters, but have performed quite well as of the tournaments for this year. So I if we only did a pick 'em for top 8, but I would put them again in like the realm of Final Form and Dart Monkeys, to be honest. So it was just that hard to pick the top 8. Complexity.
Yes. to remind everyone who the roster is, because again, there's been a lot of roster changes. So
Right.
this roster is Achilles. She's dope. She's really kind. She was a teacher in the teachers program for a little while, and she taught. Maddie or Madison, again, shown to be really good. Animal, Ali Monster, and then Jennifer, I believe.
Yeah, Jennifer was the new player.
Addition.
That was, yeah. So they did well enough in Sakura Cup to win that. So we haven't really seen much of them since then. They did the Knights, but it's so hard to gauge what's going on with like the other Game Changers teams without that. Okay. 1994 Toyota Supra. Is that Ari's team?
Oh, it might.
I saw a tweet, but the context just I want to say that's Ari's team.
They are on VLR.
Okay, KC confirmed.
Hmm.
Ari's just been fielding all these rosters,
Yeah.
trying to find a group of players that'll work.
Yeah, so it looks like it's Ari, Kaylee, Bunnyha, Chow,
Oh,
and Marina.
okay. Well, so definitely like Marina, former player of Exit. So that team or Ari, what was it? Was it the Sakura Cup? I'm like, I've lost track of all
They've
of
only
their.
played in GCA. GCA February.
Well, as that specific roster, but I feel like they've done some other stuff as well. It's hard to
Maybe.
keep track of all of these pug rosters that Ari's in. But I think that could be like an upset team.
Yeah.
It's that people don't see coming. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to summarize Team T, Powerpuff Gaming, Insomnia, and Immaculate in we don't know much, right?
Yeah, yes.
That's fair. Okay. And then Team Mystic Venus and NMG Celeste, again, teams that we've seen before in like the Game Changers Academy and whatnot, but haven't performed too well to like get out of like to get to semifinals or something like that. And then that leaves version X. So this is like kind of breaking news from today, right? So version X signed 2 players. We learned earlier that they released Milk and Natty.
Yeah.
So both of those players left. We didn't know who was going to fill. We talked last week about like the reason. Oh, could you cue that clip by the way?
Clip.
Oh yeah, if you don't have it, that's cool.
I will have it. Don't
We talked
you
about
worry.
thank you Betty, you're the champ. So we talked about with the IGL of version X leading, no way would Anders like not want to field a very good IGL. And so we kind of thought through last time who are the IGLs on the scene. So we knew Zoesi was like the IGL for Polaris. But then I remembered like in the very back of my mind that when I spoke with Polaris, however many months ago, it sounded like there were more IGLs on the scene than we would have thought. So do you have it?
I
Or
do.
yay. Okay. Could you
Sure. This.
That's so interesting. And earlier you mentioned that is there audio? Many of you
There's
have the
audio for
ability
me.
to call on the team. So
Does
that mean it's going how are you able to
Yes.
well with the respect that you all have, but how else are you able to juggle kind of having multiple leaders and multiple ideas on the team?
It's definitely. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say Zoe does a lot of like pre-round IGLing because she's really good at like setting everyone up, and I'm not really good at pre-rounding. So she's really good at that, and Kat also pre-rounds. And then I'd say me and Kat are more of like the mid-round callers.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I feel like because me and Starlight are
Okay, so Starlight basically said Zoe and Kat are the pre-round, and then Starlight does more of the mid-round.
Yeah. So I vaguely remembered that part where Kat and Starlight like mid round IGL. And so that made me think, okay, well, they IGL, Version X needs an IGL. Puzzle piece.
Oh.
So that was my prediction. I wasn't confident in it. I probably should have been a lot more confident enough to tweet it so people would think I'm a genius, but I didn't. So, oh well. But yeah, so Triggered and Starlight are going to be on version X, and Starlight has been, or in the tweet was said to be the IGL, but I'm sure based on what we heard in that clip, we'll have Triggered contributing some. And yeah, so Anders is ready and roaring to go with this roster. But I don't know how last minute this is. I mean, Polaris did break up recently. We don't know what was in the works. If just the release or just the disbanding of Polaris was the impetus or the catalyst. But yeah, if it's new, I don't know how much they can put together in like a week or two. Thoughts?
I feel like Anders must have had like something up his sleeve for a while. But that is my vague assumption based on Anders.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm not too concerned because again, you have to only make it top 16 this week. The other week, like when it comes to playoffs, I think that's more concerning. Um, but I would assume that they've been screaming a lot these past like few
Few
days.
days.
Mhm.
Sure.
Even though Polaris disbanded publicly, I'm not quite sure how
How long it's
negotiations, actually been, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Because I assume that because what happens in free agent teams, right, is that you want to be signed as a team, but sometimes, if you talk to your teammates, they allow you to try out for other teams, right? So I don't know if it
Mhm.
was like a trial thing or So I again, that's just my assumption.
So that's a fair assumption. So it could have been in the works for a while. Okay. Well, we can talk about this when you pull up the logos, but um I didn't pick them for my pick'em. So if you could pull up the pick'ems. So we picked the top 8 teams. These are the teams that will move on to the next stage, so the main event for the following week. So we spoke a lot about 16. So that's how many teams move on from the group stage, and then 8 teams move on to the main event. So top 8 teams, as you can see, um, it's there's so many teams that could be the top 8, and there wasn't a full consensus on who those teams could be. So just for the record, B is Betty, D is Dazeddreams, and I'm DR. And yeah, we can just run through the ones that we all agree on. So Cloud9 White, Shopify Rebellion, TSM, Misfits Gaming, and that's it. So those are the teams like we all agree will
Got our
make
top 4
yeah. Yeah,
unanimous.
basically. That now that you say that I I would put money on those being probably the top 4, but I don't know, maybe Misfits and another team could be top 4, but anyway, so Dazed, you picked Dig and Version X, where me and Betty did not. So, do you want to defend those picks?
Yeah, I would defend my picks. So version X Reason being is I trust Anders with my life, okay? And
Whoa.
I knew he's
Ooh.
going to pick good players, and I think they kept 3 of the core roster. Okay, that's still a lot of people, right? So
Mhm.
I'm thinking top 8. I feel like that's manageable for them, especially now with the addition of Cat Triggered, who I think the roster was honestly missing some firepower, and Cat Triggered,
Yeah,
I think,
brings that.
brings that,
They
right,
didn't have, like,
to
a dedicated op.
what?
They didn't have, like, a
I
dedicated op.
yeah, exactly. And Starlight, I don't know much about Starlight, but if she, Polaris had that winning streak, you know, I think that's good picks. And I think the remaining 3 players, so now the roster consists of Carl, Rush, Naomi, and then obviously Cat Triggered and Starlight.
Oh,
So I think that's a good. And then with Anders as the coach, I
yeah.
think you know that's going to be a deadly team. And then for Dignitas,
Mhm.
they were always top 4 last year. So that their team consists of Elite, Thea, Rain, Stephanie, and Sholiana. I think they have really great team synergy, and anyone can frag out on the team, really. And I don't, even though we haven't seen them recently, I think their experience individually from CS:GO and then their experience previously as a core roster will bring them into the top 8, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Oh, that makes sense. So the history, the synergy of the
Yeah.
team, you would put that as a pro and possibly something that will help them out even if they haven't had as much competitive experience.
Yeah, or like recent, I guess, is more.
Recent competitive.
Besides the Galentines, right?
Right, right.
Right.
That's fair.
But
Okay.
hey, I
Um
was the only one who guessed version X, and I feel really happy, and
True.
this
So
is prior to the
right,
announcement, so
you should say yeah. So version X pick was prior to the announcement, so we'll give you that days. Okay. What other differences? So you and let's see, you and Betty picked X set, and so we already talked kind of about your reasoning behind that and the potential because they were excited. So
yeah.
that'll that'll settle for your kind of reasoning
Well,
behind that.
but then recently there's a leak. Betty, can you bring it up? I don't know if did I
Wait,
even link it
another
to you?
week?
Well, there was a potential leak that
Oh.
Exit Female is importing 2 European players.
Oh,
Did
yeah,
I link that?
that's what we
Did I
were
link that?
referring to.
Uh.
Yeah,
What?
that's what we were referring to last well, that's what I was referring to at least, like the 2 EMEA players.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so again, I based mine off of that, but now with this with the but also, with that leak, I was like, yeah, that's going to be really good for the team, I think. They're picking up G2 goes in.
Yes. Here we go.
Okay, you can read the article. You read the article. I
Yeah.
Sources: XF female to set to sign Danish players Noya and Seal. I'm
Mhm.
gonna. So former Seal is from G2 goes in, or at least used to play, and then Noya is a current member of Rick's GG Lightning.
If that's the case, I feel bad for Rick's GG because they're already down 2 players,
Mm.
and if they lose another one, and their game changers start like in April, so that that roster is gonna have a bit of a rough time. Um, okay, well that's fair. How about for CLG? So, Betty, did you have any reason behind like your? So we both picked CLG and Gen
Mhm.
G. Did you have any reason behind those two teams?
CLG I put because they were playing in some of the open tournaments, and I thought they would have like a bit more tournament experience in that sense. And then NG, think back. Uh, yeah, same kind of
Really
thing. They were
similar
playing
reasoning, right?
in like the
Mm-hmm.
Knights group, uh, the Knights Gauntlet. And
That's
what about
fair.
you,
No,
Delta? Why did you put them?
well, that was the reasoning behind most, if not all, of my picks. I prioritized competitive experience and especially experience in the new meta over anything else. So that's why I even included Dart Monkeys, like them having competitive experience, even if it's like just academy, like they've been playing in the new meta and have played. They are playing teams that they are going to play this week. So I gave them a buff for that.
Yeah, and
Um,
even with Dart Monkeys, like their run through GCA, it was like a very convincing run. Like
mm-hmm.
it was kind of only in the finals where they were kind of like there's this moment of like will they win, will they not? But in their other matches, they were pretty solid.
Yeah, and again, like for me, Dart Monkeys, kind of maybe Final Form and Light Up Sketchers. It's kind of hard to rank those three, but because Dart Monkeys did pull out the win, and like you said, very convincingly, I put them in the top 8. So as you can see here, we have, let's see, 11 teams. I can do math. Yeah, 11 teams, but only 8 will get in. So clearly there are going to be some upsets, and it's going to be hard to pull a top 8 win.
I'm
Okay.
excited.
I'm very excited.
I'm so excited. As you were saying, Days, just how much these teams were able to catch up over the last few months, and to see how many rounds or even maps they can take off of Cloud9. Because Cloud9, when they do their interviews, they're very like very sure of themselves, reasonably so, and justifiably because they're their record. But it would be nice if you could take a few more maps off of them.
Mm.
I think this is a tournament where we will see major upsets. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, we did it. So we went through most of the 32 teams that we knew about. We were able to kind of give our predictions for what the top 8 would be. And yeah, we're all looking forward to the qualifiers starting Thursday this week. And we didn't get news about like trying to co-stream or anything,
Oh,
but
you can come stream.
oh,
Let me. Sorry. There's an application. So if you go to
oh, okay. Well, we will do that then, so that we
yeah,
can
there's an
co-stream with you.
application.
Cool. Well, we will
While
talk about that later.
while Dazed
Yeah.
is looking at that, I just want to bring up one piece of news that was broken literally as we were getting ready for our podcast, and that
Wait.
is Bob from Sonics is
Oh,
now
yeah.
looking for a team as a restricted free agent. And Bob's story is kind of interesting because she was pretty much the only female player in the main circuit and competing in tier 2 events along with her male um, teammates. And then now that she's looking for a team, we were talking earlier about how if she wants to join a female or Game Changers team, then like we think that she'll be picked up very quickly, or we don't know if any of the main circuit team will be looking to pick her up.
Yeah. So definitely another free agent to look out for.
Mm.
And who knows if that's going to shake up like some of the decisions that were made, because again,
Yeah.
who knows when the roster kind of cutoff is.
And
But yeah, a lot to look forward to.
and
My
Bob.
oh days.
Oh, you go. Bob plays, as you can see, a lot of agents, but a lot of important agents, right?
Mm.
Like Chamber, Viper, and Omen. So controller players. Not only can Bob play those agents well, I mean, she also played like Sova, which I don't. Yeah, a very crucial role. She can also frag out. Like there were multiple times if you watched like Sonic's match where she carried like I felt like she run them crucial rounds, just playing off of her utility or her info if she's playing Sova, gaining that crucial information for the mid round, or just clutching it, right? So I think any team should look at her as a potential trialee, especially in the game changer scene. I mean, not to bring up past drama, but she l- she announced that she would no longer compete in the game changer scene,
Mm-hmm.
which was fueled because she was just literally killing everyone.
I can imagine.
My guess
So yeah,
is
so
that
I'm hoping CLG Red. That would be dope. CLG Red because they have an opening,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
My guess is she's going to fill for a team this upcoming Game Changers,
Oh, like last time.
and then somehow get signed to a big org. Maybe CLG Red, like Days.
Well, I think the trouble would be, and this is where the controversy might come into play. Just like last time, she filled for a team that wasn't expected to do well,
And
and
then
then
got
she like carried and rolled everyone,
yeah
and so everyone
finals.
was angry. So if she does that again, like let's say goes on, I don't know, MILFs or something, and we didn't predict MILFs to like make it in the top 8, but they do, you can see why there might be a little bit of anger floating around.
Well,
Well, that's
the
that's the
other
name of the
teams just
game.
need to play better. I don't know.
True. Can't
I think
argue with that.
Bob is easily a top 5, top 3 player in the game traders
Yeah, if
scene.
we're
I
talking
think.
about experience in open tournaments, like that's
Yeah.
all she plays in and has been playing for the past year.
Oh, we have breaking news. Thank you, Casey.
Oh my god.
It Not Han is signed.
Oh my god.
Okay,
Hold
yeah,
on.
and Han is also a cracked person too.
There are so many things right
Well,
now.
huh. Wait. Okay, there's too much
Wait,
going on. What?
Okay,
wait,
So
wait,
what?
wait.
literally a minute ago, It Not Han is a
So maybe
little.
CLG?
Yeah, that would line up the timing a little bit more. Like I don't think uh Bob would have put a tweet looking for team and then yeah, no, this one lines up a little bit more with CLG, I would think.
That makes sense. I felt like, when she was a free agent, got let go of Shopify, she was one of the top free agents you could look at, right?
Mhm. Although who's going to be the IGL for CLG?
Let me look at their roster.
Not Han is like a fragger, right?
So we have Claudia, Rise, Bungie, and Amnesia. Maybe Rise be
Be.
good.
But that's just something that they're going to have to just another variable in the list of variables we've talked about, and the millions of, or not millions, the dozens of storylines that could go on for this week. So a
The
lot to
casters have
figure
such
out.
Such juicy stories to go through.
Right? Lucky them. Haven't been announced yet, but I'm sure those casters will be plenty happy to deal with all these storylines.
Also, observers.
Also, the observers. You get to tell the story literally, quite literally. Okay.
I'm
Well,
excited. I'm excited. Oh, we have one
think-
more announcement too.
wait, we do?
We do?
Game Changers Japan.
Oh,
Oh.
Mhm.
Oh my
okay,
God.
right. So we have spoken about them not having a Game Changers for Japan or